Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Got Your Back podcast. My name is Jason Strudwick, and we continue to do this alone without Ryan Shaugger right now. Got Your Back is brought to you by our title sponsor, Mr. Dirk. Mr. Dirk, iconic menswear clothing in Edmonton, founded in 1939. If you have never been, you have to check it out just off White Ave and 102 Street. Beautiful new shop. Mr. Dirk, formerly Dirks, has everything you need for every aspect of your wardrobe. Huge lineup of casual clothes like jeans, pants, shirts, sweaters, shoes, and on the more formal side, an amazing selection of brand name suits, sports coats, ties. They can do customs. They have in-house tailoring. Mr. Dirk really is one-stop shopping for all your clothing needs. We're so happy to have them on board. It's great to be a part of them, and they help me look as good as I do for my hot wife. Let's welcome in the boys here, TR and of course Zuby. And this morning, guys, we wake up the Edmonton Oilers a 7-2 victory in Pittsburgh, convincing win. But more importantly, they are now 9th in the NHL in total points, which is pretty incredible. And, I guess, bigger picture talk here really quickly, TR, they're slowly climbing up the ladder. But last night, they kind of let everyone know that this is not a team that's going to be just kind of messing around with.
Yeah, it was a great game to watch if you're an Oilers fan. I honestly couldn't tell if Pittsburgh were that bad or Edmonton were that good. It was, and it's funny because Pittsburgh came out the first couple shifts. They had a great forecheck. They were really aggressive on the penalty kill. I thought Pittsburgh were going to give them a way better game. I'm talking first 4 minutes, not much of the first period, but the very, very first. Like Pittsburgh had a plan. They came out and they went real aggressive. They were dumping it in and hitting, and the Oilers just stayed calm and collected. And really just took over. And it's funny because within the first 5 minutes, the Oilers had a couple of giveaways too, and Draisaitl had a couple of bad ones. It wasn't just the goal. It was one up in the offensive zone out of the corner. And rather than sulk and read body language as often happened in the past, the Oilers just picked up their pants and were professionals and went ahead and absolutely destroyed the Penguins. It was, like I said, a great game to watch if you're an Oilers fan. And by that, I mean, it wasn't just entertaining, but a lot of the spare parts really contributed. And I think you saw a team that's more prepared for the playoffs than they were, say, 5 months ago.
Yeah, we'll get into it for sure. But Zuby, you're watching the first couple minutes, and your goalie gets tripped up. And a goal goes in. What were your initial thoughts as a former goalie? You're like, oh man, could be a long night for the skin, man.
Well, you hate to give one up early. You hate to give one up on the first shot. And I actually saw a pretty funny clip on Twitter. Someone must have been watching. Someone posted a clip that said, "I figured out what happened on that first goal." They must have been watching it on their through their Xbox or something, and there was a notification that came up on the screen that said "controller disconnected." That happened to happen right as they're like, "Oh, I figured out what happened on that first goal." That's kind of what it feels like when you get some kind of bad luck thing thing happen to you like that. That is absolutely the mental challenge of playing goal is just completely forgetting that and trying to make the next save and trying to make a good save, and it turned out Skinner didn't have to make a ton of saves after that. So the team really rallied for him. It was a really good, that was a top to bottom effort. I totally agree with TR too. I was watching and I was thinking, are the Oilers crushing this or are the Penguins playing terribly? It was hard. It was kind of hard to tell.
Well, let's see if we can make some sense of it as we get into the breakdown. Time for it, brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. DLR Vinyl supplies some of the nicest maintenance-free fencing and decking products out there. If you've always had a wood fence in your backyard and it's getting pretty dicey, time for a change. Really give some thought to maintenance-free. No more sanding, staining, no more worrying about upkeep. It looks amazing the day it goes in and stays that way for decades. It's a better product. It's much more simple to use. DLY vinyl locations, both in Edmonton and Calgary. And let's get into it here, TR. And as I was sitting there watching the game in the first couple of minutes, even though the Oilers weren't playing bad, they get down. But the theme for me for the entire game was how much faster the Edmonton Oilers looks than the Pittsburgh Penguins, right? 1 through, 17 players for the Oilers and then 1 through 18 for the Penguins. But it was just, on the forecheck, getting to pucks quicker. Just looked like the Oilers had, and as an offensive player, you usually appreciate that. I really thought they created separation with their speed. You know, they were getting a half step on Pittsburgh and were able to make a quick play or a pass, or whereas a team that's maybe faster, if they were played against, they're not going to make that. But I really thought with their speed, they created so much more than the Penguins could handle.
Well, coach in junior, you know him, Bob Laux, little Brutus. Bob Laux used to say, work hard, but work smart. And the Oilers, that's what they were doing. I'll give you a classic example. The Oilers like to play off the rush, right? They're real fast, as we saw last night, but often it gets bottled up, it turned over and goes the other way, but it wasn't really happening. And when you got it, there was a forecheck in the first period, McDavid, and usually he goes end-to-end. He had an opportunity, but he lofted it in the corner. He was first on it, but that's what they didn't get tripped up. Like the Oilers, right. They made the right decisions. You don't want McDavid dumping it in all the time, but when it's the best option, of course. And not only did he do it, but he's first on the puck. They start working it around, and I mean that it was obvious with McDavid because he rushes it so much. But, some big guys, the checkers, Foegele, I thought, made some great decisions with the puck. And Foegele isn't blisteringly fast, but when you make those decisions and you have a team with an overall plan, it really does. And I think that played into the fact of Pittsburgh they looked bad, but I don't know if bad was the word that I'll use for Pittsburgh. They looked almost unprepared, unfocused, and overmatched. And I think that was as much of the Oilers' game plan of just, get going. And not only game plan, but they're in a rhythm. They got some confidence now, right?
It's interesting, Charlie. You talk a little bit about that, those decisions they're making with the puck. And I thought that, you look at the last couple games, and specifically the Flyers game, the first two periods, I thought that the Flyers did a really good job in limiting the Oilers' ability to get through their zone quick and make passes. And then, in the third period, they decided we're going to chip the puck in. It doesn't mean you're dumping and chasing. It means you're putting it behind their D, making them go get it. But now you're playing in their end instead of playing in the shared neutral zone. And I thought last night, or this game against Pittsburgh, they were on it right away. And if they used their speed for sure to drive it wide. But if there wasn't a play there, they were putting it behind the D and making a play. So, this is now a few periods where they're starting to understand how they have to play and how it can be done.
And you don't always have to maim that defenseman. Puljujarvi there, I knock him quite a bit. I think I always say he does a whole lot of nothing. But last night he used his time out there to his advantage. He maximized his potential. That goal that he set up, I still think he maybe was trying to bank it off the goalie. Was it Shore's first goal maybe?
I believe it was, for sure. Of this, he hasn't played. He's only played a couple games, since Halloween or so.
So Puljujarvi, he didn't go in and rock the D, but it's just getting it in there and getting to the puck first. And when you're a big body like that, it's the same sort of thing on the other end when you're talking Desharnais. When you're a big body like that and you get there first, you don't have to hurt the guy or even really hit hard. You just have to get there first, right? And they all did that. And again, going back to McDavid, people often say that Crosby's the best third liner ever. Ever hear that? Like, I always hear those words because he's such a great two-way player. I'll stop short of third liner, but Crosby gets that credit. And McDavid, I think he's so fast and blisteringly fast, and you notice that you don't really notice those little things a lot, but he really does. Like, they're a good forechecking team. It's not just the plugs. It's right down to the leaders on the team. Draisaitl, like I say, gave it away early a couple times, but really after that made some real smart decisions. And he's a big guy with really good gravity, a strong center of gravity. When they get it in behind the D, then it's tough. And I'm talking 1 through 12 when they got a 4 lines going like they're going. Yeah. And it's if I'm a coach, I'm pretty impressed with what I'm seeing this late in the season. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction for sure. And just an update, Connor McDavid, 4 points last night. He now has 59 games played, 46 goals, and 109 points in 59 games played. That'd be an amazing season for 82 games. And we're talking about 52. Let's get into the Weiss Johnson Soundbox. With 45 years in the business, you need a new furnace, garage heater, air conditioner, hot water tank, or any of these things serviced, Weiss Johnson is the place to go. Right now, they have some great specials on. If you need a new furnace, air conditioner, or heat pump installed in February, you'll get $500 worth of gas cards. Anyone gets an estimate for a furnace, air conditioner, or heat pump, they will also get entered into a draw for a pair of tickets to Oilers game. And let's now bring in Jay Woodcroft. Forgot about that. Sorry, that's my favorite jingle. Sorry, I forgot it. Thanks, Zoobs. Let's bring in Jay Woodcroft talking about his team's game last night versus the Penguins.
I thought what I really liked about the game tonight was all the contributions that we got from everybody. Um, you know, uh, I'd go back to saying that I like the way we skated, and when we're skating at that level, I think we're a tough team to handle. The goals went in, sure, but we did a lot of good things defensively as well. It was a good team effort.
And people will say, "Well, why don't they just skate every game?" And I understand that, but there's some nights you maybe don't have your legs, or give to other team credit that it's that they're slowing you down. But also, there's some nights where you want to do it your way. And a coach will come in, and TR, we both heard before saying there's two ways to play. The coach will say there's your way and there's my way, and my way works for this group. Your way doesn't. It might help you get an extra point or two, but when you play my way, and my way is St. J. Woodcraft is skating and using their speed. And I could just hear, when I heard that quote, I was like, I can just hear him at some point saying that over the past, whatever, couple months.
And it works when you're on the same page. And you see, you can't generate this speedster skating like attack if you're not on the right page getting there. And let's be honest, guy Evan Bouchard, say, okay, he's been under the gun. He often his negative play gets magnified. And last night, right off the bat, he had another block shot with 5 people open, 4 people open. Like early in the game, I'm like, well, how's this going to go? But he didn't, though. He really tightened up after that, made some great plays out of the zone. The little things like having it in the corner and you got a bit of pressure, and then hitting McDavid when he's on the way out of the zone. That's why you have speed, because the smart decisions come from the back up. And often even with the goalie, honestly, on the breakout, right? You can even see on TV how they're communicating, they're talking. So, I mean, I don't want to look beyond that, because the Oilers D at points during the year has, been on the receiving end of some negative comments. But I thought yesterday they were really in sync, and you can't play a speed game unless you're in sync to begin with, and they should get credit where credit is due.
Let's go back to the Weiss Johnson soundbox on Jay Woodcroft talking about the longest-serving Edmonton Oiler who got his 600th point last night, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
What a lot of people might not know about him off the ice is that he's competitive in anything that he does, whether it's playing a game of golf, playing ping pong. He's somebody who takes pride in his competition level. And I think that's what we're seeing this year is how competitive Nuge is being in all situations. I'm moving him all over the lineup. He's left wing, he's center, he's playing on first unit penalty kill, first unit power play. He's somebody that, I think got a little bit of a taste of a longer playoff run last year, and he's driven to help the team in whatever way he can make the playoffs first and then go on the long run.
Nugent-Hopkins, longest serving Oiler, over 700 games as an Oiler. And you know what? This is best offensive season. I don't think it's any surprise that the team is continues to improve and evolve. We talk about Ken Holland, and he always says we need internal improvement. Internal improvement, and I think that Nugent-Hopkins is a guy who's brought more. I think Hyman's brought more this year. When we're talking about veterans, at least, and we'll talk about Foegele a little bit later. But he's not the sexiest player. By when you look at the guy around him, McDavid or Leon or Nathan McKinnon, and maybe his point totals aren't up there, TR, but he's very quietly effective player, and that's not to disrespect his skill set. It's just that he's not going on Instagram, but man, he's a nice guy to have in a pinch, because as Jay just talked about, he plays in every situation for the Edmonton Oilers.
And it's great to see him. He's playing with a lot more patience, poise. And God, he's still in his 20s. When I looked at that, I was like, God, it doesn't see him. He's still in his 20s. But first overall, and these kind of things, I remember when he went first, it was always kind of said, well, he's not as flashy as you'd think. And people are almost always justifying that he went first. And you look down, he's had some real good seasons. This year he's having a great season, and he does. He's never looked bad to me. I thought he's one of those players that really usually the vast majority of the time makes the right play, and I think he takes pride in that, judging on hearing him speak over the years. But this year, he's creating a little bit more space, and when you have those players around you, I mean, you can go back and look at the players that have flourished when, like a guy like Phil Kessel, right? When there's other options around and people don't have to zero in on just you, you can really kind of grow into that role of, well, you got a little bit more time with the puck, and there's not quite as much pressure, and often it goes the other way. And he's having a spectacular season. I love watching him play, and he seems, I mean, don't you have more success when you're having fun? It seems to me like he's having fun. He's smiling a lot and seems to be, although I still don't understand it, but he still seems to be a little bit underrated. And in my mind, a big part of the glue in that room.
Yeah, underappreciated. Let's now hear again the Weiss Johnson inbox, our sound box, the man, Mr. Nugent Hopkins, right now.
The way that we defended, obviously they got that first goal, and we responded quick and got those power play goals, and then we just kind of started flowing from there. I thought Rhino, Shorzy, Jesse were flying around for us and really got us a lot of momentum, and then obviously get rewarded for that one. So it was great to see, but yeah, I thought everybody was playing well, and we were all on the same page tonight.
You know, that's on a night he gets a 600 point. He quickly deflects to his peers, and I love that he brought up Shore, Ryan, and Pugliarvi. They did score a goal. They played about 11 minutes together, and I thought they had a really, really good game. And I'll think about this group. You know, Devon Shore has barely played this year. He's been healthy scratch. He's been in the minors. You know, he comes back, makes that nice play to Tyson Barrie tonight, or last night he gets rewarded with the goal. Derek Ryan, the ultimate role player. The guy's got 10 goals. Who had that? Who said that he was going to have 10 goals all year? And then Jesse Pugliarvi, a guy who has been, you know, he's having a tough time. And, you know, he had that chance wide open to end the game. He hits the post, you know, and he kind of laughs about it. But here are three guys that quite honestly shouldn't be having the impact they are. But I think part of what we're seeing from this group is resiliency in guys that are coming in, maybe been out of the line, come in, and then they contribute. And I think that is the calling card of what it could be a successful team.
That's a great way to put it. You know, guys, that resiliency. You're right. Each one of the players you just mentioned had reason to be down this year, and you know, tripping over their bottom lip, but they didn't. They came back with an impact. You could see it after Shore scored. The camera went right to his face. He was elated. It was as if he scored his first goal of all time. You know, and when you see that, I mean, that's addictive, right? And again, I thought Pugliarvi had one of his best games that I've ever really seen him play when it comes to decision making and making an impact. And all he has to do is go out there, get those legs moving. Like I said, you don't have to maim people, but just get there first, go to the front of the net. And, you know, instincts are one thing, but if you go to the right place, it's much easier to take advantage of scoring instincts or hockey instincts if you're in the right position and you're playing with the right players. The other thing is that these guys, each game that goes by, get used to playing with each other more and more. And, you know, it seems like, for lack of a better way to put it, positive vibes, and that's addictive.
You know, we touched on a little bit about the Nugent Hopkins and obviously Connor McDavid's 4-point night. But I love when you listen to the post-game interviews where those guys and the coach acknowledge the contributions of guys that, quite frankly, could be fringe players when it comes up. You know, Kane's on the line right now. Costin's not in the lineup right now. Who knows what will happen between now and the trade deadline? Do they add another forward or two? This could really change the look of these guys, but they're contributing now. And I love that. I think that's just says a lot about the team. I also want to touch on a point. I think it was in the third period. Vinny Darnay blocks a shot. The big man goes down, and you know, we've all blocked shots. It is so painful, and you don't even want to look to see if your foot isn't there anymore. Anyways, he comes back to the bench, and they show the bench on the game feed, and every one of the D-man, including the D-man coach Dave Manson, they all tap him on the back. And I love that moment because that's going to make him more likely to stand in there again. It's not fun. Let's be honest. Blocking shots isn't fun because 9 out of 10 are going to hit your shin pads. That one hits you in the foot and you think your toe's gone. But I loved every single D-man on that bench. Barry, Dave Manson, who was a coach, I think nurses, but everyone tagged him and said, buddy, thanks, man. Thanks, man. And that goes so far to building that team chemistry.
Yeah, positive reinforcement. And not only that, what I loved about it is the timing of it. It's not like it was 2-2 in a playoff game late, you know. I love that. It was the score was out of hand, but keeping to the team first philosophy, sometimes you got to do that, right? The momentum has swung already. The game's over, but to keep that mindset and to prove to everybody else that this is our team and this is what doing and this is our structure, right? He did that. He took one that's taken one for the team.
Oh.
And it's great. When I used to do stuff like that, not that I did a lot, but if it happened, it was nice to get a little bit of positive reinforcement because it's not easy to do, like you said, and it makes it a little bit easier to do again if you know it's appreciated.
And then the best part is other guys are more likely to do it because they see the reinforcement they're getting. And so if you're another D-man or another forward on that team and you see him blocking a shot, how can you get out of the shooting lane when you need to be in there? And I think that's just that. We got a little bit of glimpses here, right? We're not in the dressing room, but you see little glimpses of what it looks like a tight team. I think we're starting to see it there. All right, let's take a quick pause here. When we come back, we'll get into a player who's, I think, really elevated his game and in a timely manner. Next on Got Your Back podcast with Strudwick and Mr. TR, and of course, Ryan Rishaug, who's in Mexico.
Joined now by Sterling Dirk, right inside the beautiful store over at Mr. Dirk. Sterling, time for a little rapid fire. You up for it?
I'm ready. Here we go.
All right, true or false? You took on title sponsorship of this podcast for the sole purpose of fixing Jason Strudwick's mess.
True. His wife came begging for help.
It's going to be a long, beautiful relationship. It's going to take us a while, pal. All right, true or false? If someone's frustrated looking at their wardrobe, doesn't like their options, it's immediately $1,500 to make any change.
False. You start with one item, you build it up. It's like anything in life. You just need to kind of start placing those pieces and then adding more and more, but it doesn't need to happen all at once.
True or false? Suits are the main thing that Mr. Dirk offers.
False. Actually, we carry a wide array of product from jeans, shoes, socks, underwear, t-shirts, casual wear. I mean, we specialize in tailoring, but we are head to toe for all of our clients from weekend to regular everyday office.
Great stuff. Check out the shop just off White Avenue at 102nd Street. And for all their stock, visit them online, mrdirk.com. Thanks, Sterling. I'll see you soon, buddy. I'm due.
We'll see you soon.
Hey, Struddy, question for you. Have you ever tried putting in your own fence?
I sure have. Between digging the posts, mixing up cement and digging the holes, it's absolute killer.
It's brutal on the back. Well, listen, what if I told you you could put in a fence without having to dig a hole or mix any concrete?
I'd be much more likely to come over and help you out.
Yeah, well, you're not the first guy I would call, but thank you for that. Listen, my brother's company, DLR Vinyl Products, they've come up with a system where you can actually put high-quality vinyl fence in the ground without having to dig a hole, without having to mix any concrete. They can teach do-it-yourselfers how to do it, and they can also work with contractors who might be looking to start installing vinyl. It's super high-quality product. The great thing about it is that it has fantastic longevity. You put it in, you don't have to worry about staining or sanding or anything like that. I've been lucky enough, Struddy. They've put in multiple fences in my different yards and they've built me 3 decks. I have totally abused the fact that my family is in the fencing and decking business, but it's great product. Give Rob a call in Calgary or Rick a call here in Edmonton. This is a company my dad started. It's a family business. I'm super proud of it. That's DLR Vinyl Products in Edmonton and Calgary.
Welcome back. Got Your Back podcast that resumes, and we have a very special guest with us today. Terry Ryan, thank you for joining us. No, just kidding. All the way live from Mexico. Ryan Rishaug put down his margarita this morning. Or you look like a samosa kind of guy, Shaugger, for being honest.
Yeah, no, there have been a tremendous number of blended drinks, and every time I order a blended drink, I think about you guys. I think about the chirps that would be there, but you're not here to chirp me. So, lots of mojitos, lots of strawberry daiquiris, pina coladas. Meanwhile, my kids are just pounding the beers back. My adult kids pounding the beers back, shaming me.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. I mean, there's a lot of things that you do that are questionable, but whatever. As long as you're having a good time. How's the water? You been surfing?
No. So you know what? Honestly, I haven't been in the ocean once yet. That's kind of embarrassing to say. Wow. But just been hanging out by the pool mainly.
Yeah.
And just relaxing, chilling out. It's been good. I hear the weather's been great back home, so I'm glad everyone's been enjoying that while I'm away.
Very calm, very relaxing, very nice actually back there. And the Oilers are playing well, so it's been fun. So let's get into the takeaways. Time for an hour of takeaways. Brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC, #1 GMC dealership in all of Canada, 5 years running at Sherwood Buick GMC. They actually have trucks in stock, or they can get them in short order. The staff is fantastic, but the process is streamlined. Finance is quick and easy. Go see Phil and the crew at Shored Buick GMC. Tell them Got Your Back sent you just off Baseline Road on the way into Shored Park. All right, guys. The takeaway chat today is a guy that I think is really getting his game in order, and more importantly, understanding how he has to play every night, and that is Warren Foegele. In his last 5 games, Foegele has 3 goals and an assist. More importantly, I think 12 shots, which I think is really important. But over the year, 44 games played, 10 goals, 6 assists. So, let's call it roughly that's a 30-point pace. Maybe a 15 to 20 goal pace. We'll start with you, TR. Warren Foegele. He's tough year last year, I think, is to find consistency. Some nice moments, and even this year, maybe some nice moments. But I feel like this last little stretch, he's doing what he needs to do, which is drive the puck hard, protect that puck, shield it, getting in the zone, and then use his big body and speed once they get in there with a guy like Draisaitl who set him up.
He's making some great decisions. And how about this? I think he took the closest slap shot I've ever seen. You know the one I'm talking about. McDavid met him out of the corner, and he leaned into it. He was on the goal line. It was 1 foot in front of the goal line, and he clapped it. It was my favorite play of the whole game. My favorite play
a one-time slap shot from inside the blue paint.
It was in the blue, well into the blue paint. But I love it, and I think this guy, we talk underrated with Hopkins, Nugent Hopkins. Same sort of thing. If you look back at his stats, even when he went to the OHL, he missed a lot of games, but he had a lot of goals. He went down to the A. I believe he nearly scored 30. And in limited time in the NHL, he always seems, on ice, to get it done. And you always notice him. He looks a little awkward from my perspective, skating-wise. He doesn't look like a perfect skater, but maybe that adds to the elusiveness, because when he gets into the zone, he seems to be in the right spot. When he goes into the front of the net, he's a strong guy. He's strong on his skates, and lately he's playing with a lot more confidence. Doesn't surprise me that he's found the success given that formula.
Shaugger?
It's interesting. It's interesting with Foegele. For me, Warren Foegele is an example of a guy who, and I'm just going to make some assumptions here, guys, how a guy can be probably generally fairly pissed off, yet still pull on the rope in the right direction and get things done. If you're Warren Foegele, you're probably not super pumped at the way a few things have gone at times this year, right? There were a couple of healthy scratchings where it was like, oh, okay. Where Jay Woodcroft basically said, it wasn't him, but someone had to go, right? Bottom line, Warren Foegele is on the list of guys who might get healthy scratched if the lineup is healthy. He doesn't want anything to do with that list, and he was on it. And I think, I'm going to assume he was pissed. So you've got a guy that's in and out of the lineup at times, probably not, probably feeling like, use me more and I will show you more. And you know what? It's okay. It's normal for guys to feel that way. It's probably healthy for them to feel that way. But what do you do with it? Do you drag the bottom lip around? Do you get pissy? Do you half-ass it here and there? No. What I saw Warren Foegele do coming out of those healthy scratchings, you guys, was absolutely light it up at practice. The intensity level went up. You could tell he was a guy that was practicing to get back into the lineup. And since he's done that and gotten back into the lineup, he's produced in a way that, good luck Jay Woodcroft pulling him out of the lineup again. So Struddy, I think it's an example of a guy that I'm going to put thoughts in his head. I'm going to assume there have been times where he's been pissed this year, but channeled it properly, and now is almost saying, I dare you to take me out now with the way that he's played.
Well, the interesting part, and you look on the left side, Evander Kane is out. Costin's out.
Yeah.
You have Foegele playing better. Is Leon Draisaitl going to be played as a center, as a wing? I mean, there's a lot of healthy competition on that left wing. And what I like about it, and let's assume there's room for all of them to play there, all 4 of those guys I just rattled off are big and can skate and have some ability to score.
You throw Holloway back in there at playoff time too, right? Right. Throw Holloway back in there when playoff time comes potentially.
And he's another guy that those 5 guys, and that's a good point. Those 5 guys all can get things done, and all have can play what I'd call a playoff style of game, which I think is what we saw last year with the Oilers played. You need that heavier play, but they didn't really have Foegele going last year, right? They didn't even have Costin. So, looking ahead, I guess, to kind of, the trade time where we're less than a week away from it. I don't really feel there's any need on the left side to kind of sort out what's going on. But can one of those guys flip over to the right side, or you need to maybe adjust something on that right side? And Shaugger, we'll start with you with this idea of the recent play of Foegele. The injury guy is coming back at some point. What does this mean to the wing situation for the Edmonton Oilers?
Yeah, I remember when they went and got him, one of the things that was said about him was he could play either wing if he needed to.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen them use him over on the right side at times when it gets a little jammed up on left. I find that his play on the boards doesn't suffer too much. A lot of times if you flip over to your off wing, on the boards in your own end is where it can get a little bit dicey. I found him actually to not be too bad over there. So I think he can play both wings, and I think that helps him. I think come playoff time, I would have some question if I were Oiler management, how much can you rely on this guy come playoff time? Because if you guys recall last year in the playoffs, his confidence just fell through the floor.
Yeah.
He could barely handle the puck. He and Puljujarvi were borderline unusable in the playoffs. I think Warren Foegele needs to show them over the next 3 weeks here, a couple of weeks here, that he's got control of his game and he can be relied on. They really need a guy with that size who can skate the way he does to be reliable for them. So I think their wings are okay, you guys. I think it's more obviously it's the blue line. We can talk about that. But I think Foegele and some of these other wingers that have emerged, I think they're fairly set on the wings.
TR?
I know what you're saying about the playoffs last year, but let's put it this way. What's experience about, right? They say that adversity builds character. So you got to hope sometime. I mean, these guys are in your organization that they're going to learn from that experience. And at some point, you have to have confidence in that and just let it go. And I think this could be the point. I really do. Clearly, we don't want to take it down to just one game, but last night we're watching it, and a lot of these guys are playing a lot better. But, it can be done. And Pittsburgh, although they got blown out, they're a decent team who's fighting. They needed that game. They needed it. It's not like, it's not like they're not in the Bedard hunt, right? Like they were challenged. They need to make the playoffs. Well, everybody wants to if they can. But, they weren't really ripe for the picking. I thought it was going to be a real close game. And the bottom six were a big reason that the Oilers won. I mean, it was a team effort, but they played great. So from my mind, you start somewhere with a goal. And if this is part of the plan, you go with it. I'm not saying they're not going to pick up anybody, but if you name me the last team that won it, or even the last team in the finals that didn't have, I'm not going to say a problem, but have some decisions to make when it came to the bottom six or putting a bottom six in the top, you're dealing with your injuries. But, other than Montreal a few years ago that made the playoffs and really needed some players, they were depleted. I'm thinking of all the other teams that even make it deep. And it seems to me that there's some great players that sometimes get healthy scratch because it's a good problem to have. If you're not pushing each other, that's when you can get complacent. So I think now is a healthy situation, like Shaugger said earlier.
Yeah, and I think, just quickly, Devin Shore, I think he's inserted in the conversation that he's a guy that can go long stretches without playing, then come in and provide something. And I think that's really what the depth they need. I don't think he's an everyday player, but definitely somebody you can maybe count on to come in and help out. Let's a little bit of trade chatter on the back end. Obviously, huge trade. Bruins acquire Hathaway from Washington, along with Orlov, a player that
Orlov was your guy, Struddy.
I did.
Orlov was your guy all year.
I liked him, and now the Bruins get a little bit deeper. I mean, they've got a pretty good group of D. Orlov moves the puck well. Stanley Cup pedigree. It's a really nice pickup. The cost was pretty significant, but I mean, that's to be expected when you're adding two guys to your lineup. One probably in your bottom six or fourth line, and then I'm guessing Orlov probably plays 3-4 minutes somewhere in there. So that means Gavrikov isn't going to Boston, or I'd be surprised if he does go. It seems like they've made their pitch. The Bruins have. So that leaves Chychrun. That leaves obviously Carlson out there. That leaves Gavrikov, Edmondson. And then maybe I'm missing a couple guys. But Shaugger, what's the sense you get about this developing D market and how it affects the Oilers and where they may be looking or not looking?
Yeah, 100%. I'm here in Mexico, but I've tried to stay reasonably plugged in here on the trade front. And so here's my sense. I think that Ken Holland is going to be patient and let this run up close to the deadline and look to bargain hunt at the deadline for maybe teams who've had deals fall through. I believe their sense is that prices are obviously high to try and get something done ahead of time, and that the better deals might present themselves right in and around deadline time. So look at the reporting out of Columbus here from Aaron Portzline on how the Blue Jackets, thinking they had a deal locked up with Boston, that falls through. And now Gavrikov, there isn't a deal there, right? So the LA Kings, we know, are in the market, potentially looking for a similar type of player, a few other teams. I think Ken Holland's going to run this close to the deadline and then grab the best, his perception of the best deal. I do believe at this point, you guys, I believe Jacob Chychrun is as much in the conversation truly as, real potential there. I believe it's more so now than it has been at any point along the way. I think there's a willingness to consider this as they move towards the deadline. If the prices start to come down a little bit, I think the Oilers are still very much considering it, very much in on it, and maybe just curious to see what will happen with the prices. So I know people think like maybe Chychrun's a no-go for sure in Edmonton. I don't get that sense at this point. I think they're waiting on it, and I do believe there's interest there still.
TR, I've made the point that I believe they need to sort out this face-off situation because they're losing key draws in their own zone at key times, and it's affecting them in games. And I think you don't want to find out. Well, they found out already, but I don't think you want to just continue down this road towards the playoffs and in the playoffs, knowing that you don't know who your main face-off guy is. So when you look at the Oilers team, do they need to address maybe a third line center, but someone who can win face-offs? Maybe another utility knife player that can zip around all over the lineup? Or are you thinking D needs to be addressed pretty significantly?
Oh, good question. I think face-offs are way more important than people think for what it's worth. And not just the obvious ones that you lose and there's a direct goal. I mean, you guys deal with a lot of analytics. You win the face-off, you have the puck, right? And some are more important than others, but I never think you can have enough guys up front. And it's something that you can, I'm not going to say you can learn it on the spot, but it's a face-off, right? Let's be honest here. There are some ways that you can give yourself an advantage. It's something that can be learned fairly quick if you can already skate and you're in the National Hockey League. So I think it's extremely beneficial to have players that can do both. As far as the trade you mentioned earlier, I thought Hathaway's a big part of that. I love the way Hathaway plays, and he's kind of what we're mentioning with that bottom six. I'm not sure if the Bruins needed it. It was a glaring need, but I just don't think it can ever really hurt you. And outside of that, guys, I'm curious. Everything I'm reading in Newfoundland, I go online a lot. I follow the Oilers, but again, I'm a long way away. I'm still seeing Patrick Kane. Is this a possibility for Kane to go to the Oilers? And if so, what comes out? I know it's probably off topic, but it's something that's relevant because I'm still only reading 3 teams that he could possibly go to, and Edmonton's one of them. I just don't see it.
Yeah, so this is where I think things are at on Patrick Kane. I think, Patrick Kane has conversations and people around him have conversations about where he'd be willing to go. I think Edmonton is a spot that probably intrigues Patrick Kane because of the opportunity to play with those guys and potentially win here. So I think as an organization, when you hear that Patrick Kane might be interested in coming there, maybe, I think you have to explore it, right? One of the all-timers.
True.
So I think it behooves the Oilers to make those calls, to look into it, to find out what the ask would be, to figure out how to make the money work. I believe their priority still lies in helping the blue line. But listen, if they don't land a big fish on the blue line, another way you can give yourself a good shot in the playoffs is to bolster your ranks up front. So I think it behooves them to know what there is. Like, look at the Maple Leafs. I mean, the Maple Leafs clearly weren't willing to go big on the blue line based on where prices were. Mm-hmm. So what did they say?
Yeah.
Who is the forward we can go get that will help us experience-wise and defensively? If you're not going to make the big impact on the actual blue line, they went and got one of the better defensive forwards out there available in Ryan O'Reilly.
Good point.
So that tells you what the prices are like on the blue line right now. And so I think the Oilers are continuing to try and sort out their blue line, but I think they need to have a backup plan. If it's not going to be an impact blue liner, who could it be? Well, Patrick Kane would be on that list of guys who would come in and make an impact, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's doing due diligence on a guy that might have some interest in coming there.
Okay, I'll be the voice of reason here because you two have I don't know what's going on in Mexico and out east this morning, but you guys have just completely lost control of yourselves. So the Oilers, they don't need to score more goals, right? And when I look at the Toronto Maple Leafs, they brought in the guy did exactly what they need. If you could build a person and a player to be put in that lineup, it would be Ryan O'Reilly. That is the exact guy. The Oilers don't need Patrick Kane. That's a luxury, right? That's like having a nice
But hang
suit.
on, Struds.
Yeah.
Struds, don't you think the Toronto Maple Leafs would need Adam Larson? Like if you're talking about them going out and getting exactly what they need for the playoffs, I think the blue line was more the priority, but they weren't willing to deal with the prices where they were, so they went and got a real good defensive core. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't get their blue liner.
Right, but I think that they have a couple of young players that are playing pretty well back there. Unfortunately, Jake Muzzin leaves. I needed Jake Muzzin, and he's unable to play. Probably, unfortunately, could be a long, never play again. But my point with Patrick Kane is that he isn't even going to be on the Oilers' first line power play. So why are you trading for that guy? That's a luxury. That's like wearing a nice suit and then having to put really expensive underwear on underneath. You don't need it. It's just overkill, in my opinion. They need to address the areas of concern. My areas of concern are when you're at the end of the game and you're winning by one goal, which forwards you put out there? Which forwards? You're going to put out three guys that love to score. You put Kane, Leon, and Connor out there? Or is it Nuge? Like, who's the guy taking the face-off? Kane doesn't kill penalties. Kane doesn't take face-off. Kane doesn't check. He doesn't check anything off of the lineup. So I believe it would be fun to watch, and I love fun to watch hockey, but I believe Oilers fans want to win. And to me, that's not a recipe to getting you closer. If you can get him and do the D and do a center, then by all means, let's go all in. But I just think it's misuse of your assets, and I would call it unwise.
Well, you gave the scenario late in the game, right? Like, who do you want out there late in the game? That's just one part of it. What if you get? I know exactly what you're saying. It's not a pressing need. That's why it kind of surprised me, and I asked the question. But the more I think about what Shaugger said, if like you presented a situation, okay, but there'll be less of those situations if Patrick Kane's on your team because you're already be up 5-2. Right, you could look at it that way.
That's a good possibility. Point,
possibly,
possibly.
Well,
the offensive player is going to think that way. Hey, I'm trying to win 1-0, and TR wants to win 8-6.
8-6. Well, Struddy, let me ask you this: 5-on-5, even strength, right?
Yeah.
Who's your top six if you're the Edmonton Oilers? Like, name your top two lines in the playoffs if you're the Edmonton Oilers right now. And you know what happens? One of either Foegele or Yamamoto ends up coming out of your mouth.
No, I know.
And if you had Patrick Kane, that's no longer the case. Right?
I understand.
That solves right side, second line, first line, whatever you want to call it. And 5-on-5 is pretty critical in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Second line power play last night, I think, was Yamamoto, Ryan Puljujarvi, or Foegele. It was one of those.
Yeah.
It was three of those four. Now, that's a big come down from the first power play on the Edmonton Oilers. So, if nothing else, it would help there. But I totally understand what you're saying.
It's not plan A. Guys, it's not plan A. Plan A for the Edmonton Oilers is to go out and find a defenseman who helps move the dial. Either a defender like a guy like Gavrikov, if the price comes down, or a great puck mover like Chychrun or Carlson or whatever deal they can make work. That is plan A. But if plan A doesn't come to fruition, like maybe we saw in Toronto, right? We heard all year about add to the D. Well, they ended up, they couldn't for prices they liked, so they went and added a defensive forward. Plan A for the Oilers is the D-man. But you got to have some plan B in place. And when you hear that Patrick Kane might be interested, two things. One, you got to do your due diligence and make the calls and find out. But two, if Patrick Kane was interested in Edmonton and the reporting was the Oilers never seriously looked into it, how does that look? How does that look to your McDavids and your Draisaitl? The Oilers have to be in on Chychrun, Carlson, Kane. They have to be in on all these big names as far as the media is concerned because they're in an all-in situation here, right? So how would the optics look if it was like, they never really got serious about Chychrun or Kane or Carlson? No.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
True enough.
Well, this is going to be an interesting week because we do not see in the same way, you two and me. It's obviously 2-on-1 here. Luckily, I have the final word. So I'll leave it with this. I would rather get Ryan O'Reilly than Patrick Kane if I was the Oilers. I'll leave it right there.
Sure.
I love it.
Yeah. No, I'm not disagreeing with that.
Sorry.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. Listen, we've got a whole week to narrow this down and hammer it out and figure out which 3 Oilers are going to be traded and which 5 stars the Oilers are going to acquire. So it'll be fun to talk about. Guys, let's wrap her up here.
Struddy,
yeah.
I've seen you handle 2-on-1s. It wasn't pretty. So I like TR in my chances.
The guys just dumped it in. Like, we don't have a chance. We'll just dump it in the corner. We'll try to forecheck this guy.
You said you'd rather Ryan O'Reilly, but it's not about what you'd rather. It's about what's available and what can we do to make our team slightly better.
Oh man, you guys, this will be a fun week. We'll reconvene here later this weekend and then get into it next week. Shaugger, get back to the buffet and your mojitos or whatever it is. What?
Buffet? You mean the beach?
No, sorry.
Why would you say the buffet?
My bad.
I told you guys before, you could have saved yourself some money and just gone to the West Edmonton Mall for a week. Nice beach right there. Waves, bungee jump. You have all the mojitos you want. Oh, I'm there every time.
I know you are. You're just such
guy.
a tourist. He comes to town and can't wait to get to West Edmonton Mall.
Right out on those stretchy chairs and just sit down for the afternoon. Yeah.
Okay, Shaugger, get back to your buffet of drinks. TR, get to your hockey games. And that's it for us. I want to thank all of our sponsors, Mr. Dirk, obviously, our good friends over at DLR Vinyl Products, Luis Johnson, and, of course, our good friends at Sherwood Buick GMC. That's it for us. Thanks for tuning in. Check us out on all the different platforms, and we will connect again this weekend. Oilers take on Columbus Saturday morning, Mountain Time. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Talk to you later.